Okay, I think that worked.
Okay, well, I already set the recording for myself, so okay. So if there's no questions, then I'd like to begin and ask Bernie if he would mind uh, speaking about what your motivation has been, why you study the Buddhist philosophy and so on like that. And then we need to leave time, Bernie, as you're speaking, to leave time so that Yangchen can translate for Geshe La. Is that okay, Yangchen?
Now you're speaking about my original motivation for becoming a Buddhist, because I became a Buddhist in my own mind when I was 16 years old. I didn't formally become a Buddhist until, what was it, 1977. But my original motivation was that in the wake of the Vietnam War, I sort of, or perhaps because I was a young man, I sort of doubted everything that I'd been told when I was growing up. And specifically, well, here I'm going to have to criticize Christianity. I said, well, it's a big universe, and things are happening all over the universe. There's probably intelligent life all over the universe. And how can something on the planet Earth be decisive not only for the planet Earth, but for the entire universe? Christianity, the whole idea of the sacrifice and death of Christ is sort of limited in time and space. So I was looking for a religion that sort of embraced the idea of infinity, infinite time, and infinite space.
Okay, so don't forget to leave time for Yangchen to do a translation.
Okay, and well, I'll leave it there. That's where it started with. And I found that Buddhism, of course, has this idea of infinite time and infinite planets with different living beings on it. So my original motivation was kind of intellectual like that, but that really was my original motivation for studying Buddhism.
All right, thank you, Bernie. Let me translate it over to Geshe-la. Dilas Ginchege Bernie Kora ani Kara Nangshulia that nurse on the Ledang Rojura Tonare and the Rolani. Tadi Ledang Rodi, the kissing Nursulani chicken and the Dojina Kara Chilojidong get Dunju Tundun stone that but Nurse Koran Nangshulan and the Rodin goes to image. Shemba Kora Lojudus Kabnia, Polojudus Kabdoani, and Aranzo, some Nutang Dila. 아니 안데도 따둑도 지겨라 디게 디안 낭베 다와도 딜라 밭 코라 레슨 라샤 다 코라랑 안주 마스나 낭슈 장고 둘레니 안데 셈슈 파라도다 덴데도 딜강 파 한데스 도스라나 아니 카라이 니마 비엔남기 아니 마다 디게 충디아 가지 드스도라 코란스 기드 잠방 아란스 디 카라 이슈랑 가지 디케니 아니 아란스 다 온디드 잠방 마 디게 디 충 잠링 강자라 답두 디 토데 워라 아니 잠링 nganzu khantil orta khowa gajilne gangza lata di kangi di gangza trodi di zamba ani zambuling nganzu thanda chigora di kang chungde di gi ani di rangjo gol machine ma ki alani yang nganzu khowa len khara shemba pe shashana ta di saje dil chungde di gi di saje jogol machine ma ki adang chinta ganda nganzu che me la shora che me do dang chen ani mita pa la do da den de do da jigle dang do di ande do chin les la sha ta thanda di khara zambling di kang la ani kanyo da den de konyo shuk chambo do di zam da di gi ngin ne ge shuk chambo do mang bo ste wo ra ta won de le che me la do da den de do chin ta den de do ta du den de do chi kang da ande do chin mu thini di jang ni tro songs ani ande do chin le du zamba 아니 나무스 낭출래 디게 엔데로 따로 딘데 고간 시도 아니 원디 치는 것을 파된 당도디
그렇잖아. Continue, Bernie. Thank you.
Bernie, can you continue?
Um, how much you want me to say? I mean, I've been a Buddhist for a long time, and my motivation certainly has changed. But the other part of my motivation was, of course, that at the time, well, not so much now, but at the time I was very scientifically minded, and I wanted a religion that had the least amount of supernatural stuff in it. And the difference between Buddhism and other religions. In Buddhism, you can see the result right here in this life, whereas in other religions, let's say you have to wait until you die to see the result. And that was another motivation for becoming a Buddhist for me at the time. My attitude towards that has changed, but that's how I felt at the time.
Thank you. 아니 지당신은 가령 알아서 나온셔가지 된데 다 장전래가지 디지겨라 수장벌래가지 디 튜럽 가래 투즈니 엔드신 교와 레스레스도 디도스 아니 녜마도 차샤나 코 가래 녜마도 센리까지 따두도다 된데로 디스티스도 잠바니 센리 나로라 알아서 치 뭐부 만다도다 된데로라니 알아서 지겨라 하디줄레 가라서 수수수 알아서 라라도다 하마이 만조다 간다만다 안데 컨트롤 주투응기 넘버 유디게로 된데로 콜라 망보도 실리야 따디게 페바지 나우슈낭로레 되야도 출로디 나로라 된데로 친수 인도 슈당도 체 안디젤리안 나우슐리안 인 컨디스레 송라나 출루 셴바 토니 셰조 체나 카레 마랑조 키시다 첸딜라 레직 사샤나 데부디다 마지 시차다 디젤 게오 제마 신이야 되야 유교도다 안데로 모도 진진도도 이나 나우슈 나로라야 카레 차와 가리치니 둠데디 타랑 튠리 라샤 레군데 코디레라니 직 안데로 디 시츠 디즈 잠바니 엔데 치니안티스 나우슐 슈야 마도 차단도 김세
Thank you, thank you.
So maybe Bernie, maybe you can give, your current attitude and why it is that you're part of this group and any other group that you may be part of at this time, why you continue to be part of the Dharma and to be able to learn more and to be able to practice more and so on currently.
Well, my motivation for a long time has been I feel that very privileged to be part of a generation that is bringing the wisdom of the East to the West. And I think that's a noble aspiration, and I think that's a noble goal to be able to introduce Americans to another way of thinking about reality, which actually makes a lot more sense than what people are usually trapped in. So my motivation for practicing is to be part of the movement of that brings Buddhism to America.
Thank you. Anta kisi karata thande chalia do da jikta kanda manda jiyorata nangshol ing shudi goya gaji gymsen zo do dina ta khora thurabe yagudo jigla ga dugya de shas kachin thande thurab dilia maran zu shar chung ngene ni chujo nupcho cholia da chedi pa dembel chia do di shukchambo do du da 나오셔레 디게디다 무서 치게 아리 유두카 도알이야 카레 덴벨다 캡타당아 돌라고라 당고스 딘데신 나오셔디 출리도 잠바니 딜레 패드 제수 이랑 유스 아니 디강라 디 카리 야고들나 가랑소 아리 미 돌 차샤나다 패드 가랑소 하는데로 니 충분히 라셔라 근데 땡겨로도 잠잠 수수 동예기래고 코디디 삼바 슈지 수수 동예 슈샴보나 홍디 교서 천원디 레시로 이나 낭슈디기 but 간들로 네츠문이 라지거라 원디 땡토야 디베아고도스 아니 원도체 딱 간다 코라 아니 ngaranso 카라 샤우슈니 춘up쇼리아 낭슈 기 달롭종디 엔데 캡타베야까지 덴데로디라 페지스 이란다니 캡규 무티니스 타랑레샤
Thank you. Continue.
Geshe La, do you have any questions for Bernie?
Yeah. Tanda misi mes continue sonas.
Geshe doesn't have any questions. If Bernie has anything more to add, he can continue.
Oh, I'll just add one more thing is if you practice long enough, you get to see not only that everything, well, not everything, but you get to see the truth for yourself. You get to verify in your own life the truth of what the Buddha taught. And that creates a great deal of confidence in what the Buddha's teachings are.
Right. 아니 돈도 가리둘라나 안가랑서 남셔로 응어서 라멘다나 아니 중대 딩원이 코라 슈우지 구고에 민도스 다가랑게 니 뚠토도스 아니 베셔션 상기 송샤교지 여라 롱도 가리니 안 다가랑딜라 응어서 가래 디첸딜라 라멘다기 다르기 치니 중대다 차상 통해도 간다마다 통해 유교 제 수술라 시샤디에 유교도 같이 취루도 지지 아니 안드치니 가라수 나온주 장애라 직 레아도 쇼라 인다 디게 상마 딘데로 신스만 그러셔.
Thank you. Then
Very good. Well, thank you very much, Barney. That was very interesting. Very good. Thank you. And next week we'll ask Kunga. Perhaps Kunga, next week he can give us a short introduction to his motivation for following the Buddha Dharma and practicing as he does and so on like that. So we'll look forward to that for next time.
아니 또 다른 둔다딜라 버니기 코랑 가지가 수낭출의 인슈당다 아니 엔데지니 디게 디시 아니 제마 둔다딜라 공가기 못은 나시 또 단다 기시기 디시잖아 뭔데 송스
나서 또잖아. 아니 나디 춘춘지 쉬죠하지 정말. 얘디 휴가 가rin이잖아. 버니게 남출로 돈안 내야 주어와. 남출로 돈안 내야 돼. 시초고 뇨다다 시초고 강에다 대초지 통에 대초세야 그 탈람데 남취디 임바 통에 어느 남취를 hunjo들에도 왔을때 어느 펜쟁에 하고 해서는 다자 덤바 해자 두바 코랑기 최장당대다 랑가지바다 오지 내단데 차그도스 만다오이나 잡아치디 파마게 춘주간의 로제간의 남취는 고만의 루시 로제도와는 잡아 쇠셔도 마도 대득가서 나랑게 디 남취 가르서 그래 강에 세지게 탈랑이 받던데 학고에 돈이 체인저도 means
All right. Gishi said, let me add a small talk above Bernie. He said, Bernie, your motivation and interest into the Dharma and the Buddha practice was really like how Lord Buddha, he himself started like his Buddhahood. When he was born, he saw like illness and growth and all those four phases of life, right? And then that's how he left the palace and then enlightenment and everything. So that's how like you saw war and then yeah, like with all those motivation you were able to got to know like how if you practice Buddha Dharma and then you would be able to see the reality which you said and that was a really good one. And Gishi is saying that for himself, as a monk, he did not like for himself after like as he grew up and then when he was introduced in when he started his own practice, then that's how he got to know. He was saying that he was a monk like by the age of 8 and it was his family's wish who like it was his family who had kept him in the monastery. So it was like he learned everything through monastery.
소소기 뇌를 말아서 지속은 내단다 아니 지속 강에다 대소 원체비 토네 뜻세지게 탐람때 아니 남체디 임바 학고비 토네 남체를 휴야 되게 남체게 소소라 다다 평도 채워지다 님보다오지 용투게 번다오지 근데 편지 땡땡 인사레스 다인토제
And then with realizing that Buddha Dharma practice would be a solution to the crisis that we face in our daily life and everything. So that's a really good way to start your like a great motivation to start something as well.
Tikan ngeki chira hakwa chira chira chin ro depo tan du depo ta tab depo na ji chona ji yungu dos tende ina ti chue chenge me de tende da ji gore la ti yang su so ge kare ina chi ro ten du de tab de te yang su so la mi se ge de chi de yang te chewa yor samsang la te ngarang ti chog yos.
And then I believe that Bernie, you are kind of flexible with your like whenever you're always kind of ready for these Dharma session, and then you were present like when you are flexible with your schedule, when you keep doing like you're ready to do something, that's it's a really good way to continue your practice in that way, because there is no like nothing is blocking you your practice, right? Mm-hmm.
Ai to chen.
All right, that would be all. Any
Ane continue to ere be ngan so la ne so di ma te tha.
Lens like Gishla is asking like should we continue with the 37 practice of all the Bodhisattvas?
Yes, that would be very good. So let me screen share
Mm-hmm.
the 37 practices. 1 second. There we are. So I think it would be very good if everybody is able to see this. I presume you can. And what we can do is to
I
recite the
can't see it
hum.
on my screen, Amadorje.
You can't see it?
No, I just see started screen sharing, double click to enter full screen mode.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing as well.
What are you saying? I'm sorry.
I'm seeing the same thing that they were saying of just the black screen that says has started screen sharing, but not oh, there it is.
Now you see it?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So let's recite the homage. I think that would be a good beginning. What Geshe last week gave us a talk on was the homage, and then we'll carry on with the first of the verses of the 37 verses. So if everybody can recite this together. The 37 Practices of Bodhisattvas by Noku Chu Togme Zangpo. Homage to Lokeshwara. I pay constant homage through my 3 doors to my supreme teacher and protector Shenrezig, who while seeing all phenomena lack coming and going, makes single-minded effort for the good of all beings. Perfect Buddhas, source of all well-being and happiness, arise from accomplishing the excellent teachings, and this depends on knowing the practices. So I will explain the practice of Bodhisattvas. So now the first is, number 1, having attained this rare ship of freedom and fortune, hear, think, and meditate unwaveringly night and day in order to free yourself and others from the ocean of cyclic existence. This is the practice of the Bodhisattvas.
Ginchige Kasini Kare Maransu, the Chiju Chini, Lamalia Kare, the Kandila or the Gamdu,
Cha che ya de. Choba ju ya de.
yeah, Chiju the Kachambury Sundu Zamba, or the Chinkare, Chiju Niga Gyor, and the Jelataringanzu, Anita Lalin Tambudi Kotsu and the on the Lalin Tambudi Inchiton Gyorsas.
Tane tambo di tere ga
Tejo Duchen Lad.
denjo tuchen ne ga thodin de se tika la song so ga. Ngo ya to chen. Thank you. Tanda nganso teji duwa shama nje. Denjo tuchen se de megi luten de masong de ngon de la nganso ge penden ju ne zobe samje nam se jorwa. Pende pemba ta dewa se jorwa. Pemba bahi pemba de pemba bahi menpemba semje yen la menpemba chungze zang ya meba. Ane dewa de ya dewa la na meba. Dungye da chun mande ya. Tendawi ki pende ki june de sore sena ana zobe sanji gomparam boche kona res. Ta tendawi sanji se tela pemba ta dewa chanjang yoba di ngaranzo pende yonsu zoba de tele chungu yoba de ta ngaranzo ngone tane pecha tizi hitsapo je tane hakwa de chetu go res.
Okay. Gozunda. Gishi started with the first verse, and then over here, as Lancelot was sharing, having gained this rare ship of freedom and fortune, which was the first verse, right? Gishi is saying, before gaining this rare ship of freedom and fortune, we should be able to know like what was the perfect Buddhas were. Like perfect Buddhas were the source of all well-being and happiness, which arises from accomplishing the excellent teaching, which would be the sacred Dharma. So without accomplishing the sacred Dharma teachings, you won't be able to get happiness and well-being, which would be the perfect Buddhas, right? So in order to gain this rare ship of freedom and fortune, so we should be able to get to know like in order to accomplish the sacred Dharma, like the teaching is important. We should know that.
Tendewe sanji ku gompa rinpoche, sanji khaja thupa la pe gyan riwara, sanji khaja thupa te rani ki yen la pembam bahi. Ane rani ki netan tene dewa chanja yin dengi ki tendewe sanji ku gompa te ya tambo ni yoyo pa ke mare es. Tambo ni yoyo pa ke mare te kandichi la tene chumbare sana tambi chu drupa la tene chumbare es. Tamchu drule chungte es son wala.
And then in order to be like such a perfect Buddha, if we set an example like Lord Buddha Shakyamuni, he himself wasn't like the Buddha by birth, right? He had to go through phases so in order to become that perfect Buddhas, the one which we are referring, the source of all well-being and happiness. So this is not something you can begin with, but this is something which we can gain by accomplishing the excellent teaching, which would be the Dharma.
Tende yinba sonza ngaranzu ngwene na sanu di karatangura sana dacha tuyamba khacha tupa di ngemang sam majipi ngela ngaranzu da netan chikpa chichang res ngaranzu da si jangu nge dunge ke nadi nge shota shuri che di nge ke tende chanjang re diyo res khunriya tende re diyo res tende yinba sonza Nyema khori nganso da jipa yinba chi tamchupi chu dhune tende ki sanje ko gompa rinpoche de towa yinba songza nganso ki jula ya samji ki ridi yoba songza ene nganso ya samji na yin ki tambi chu dhune sanje ki gompa lan roya yoba te ta ripi ki tone ratho tu res.
Which is why even for Lord Buddha Shakyamuni, before attaining enlightenment, which is the Buddhahood, he is just like us. He also has suffering, illness, and then all those negative emotions. And he is someone who also like have bias, unbiased, and all these things. But upon accomplishing the excellent teaching, which would be the sacred Dhamma, then he was able to gain Buddhahood and enlightenment, and then that's how he turned into the perfect Buddha, who are the source of all well-being, benefits, and happiness, right? And so since we all also have the Buddha nature in us, so we also have that ability to accomplish the excellent teaching as well.
Ane tambi chu drupa la tene sanji ki gompa rinpoche de topku yona ta tambi chu siya de kande chik re se de ane jase shanchu sempa de so ka lalen de re es. Ane jase shanchu sempa de so ka lalen de yinba sonza ane tambi chu drugu go yona jase shanchu sempa lalen de hi gu go yoba sonza ta jase shanchu sempa lalen de gi chimar chigin chine ma hi gi yin songo yo re es.
And then in order to attain Buddhahood, we need to accomplish the excellent teaching, right? Which would be the sacred Dhamma. And this is the practices of the Bodhisattvas. So that's how like the author Ngulchu Thome Sangpula, he's gonna explain us now the practices of the Bodhisattvas. And we are gonna go with the first one.
Tene ngala di teta nyamdole dunglo chunjunji hiyayo, tene nganzo pepa mechi ge sanji ge chwe de kale kapo hiware ya, sanjiya na tar rinpo hiware ya, sanjiya de la hiwa ngo de ge dus, de yungpa songzang de ge langla la ya la na yun rinpo hiwa ji ngo ndo ge dus, ane deji raya la tar rinpo hiware ya, tene yindu ko sanji ge chwe de janyi chogu mundu se lan, tene langi ji chung songs.
Also, I do have an example. There was one Tibetan guy last time. He was saying that as we are focusing on accomplishing the excellent teaching and then the dharmas, and then after that it would be getting enlightenment and then gaining Buddhahood and all these things, right? So he was saying that this is such a long process. Like in order to gain the happiness, it is like such a long process and such a hard one. So why can't we just like why to go all that long way? And which is why Buddha like studying, practicing Buddha Dharma is tough for him, like because it's a very long process.
제가 먼저 최초의 교훈을 소야 되다 리피게 존생의 톤에 세보 가르하고 두고 그래서나 삼지의 최대 고추번에 제네 상지 토야가 랑가데 빼나 상주의 셈조다보다 제와니지 첨보조다보지 수속의 셈라 디스 산노 동시번에 존데 때문에 되진 고추사레스.
And yet, what we can prove is that upon practicing like a small, maybe starting with a small portion of compassion action or like bodhicitta or any of these actions, by starting those like in your day, like a small portion, even by doing those only, like that is also like enhancing happiness around you, like in your surroundings. So when you start doing practicing bodhicitta or compassion and all these things, that's when like happiness is coming along with that.
이게 휴바장이마도 체남바솔 냠뇨디 여레스 녜하고 여스 지소소고 샹주 담당하랑서 정로 센지 고는 줘야다 세메게 셈지 타입에 망 난카다냐바 셈제 단지 대와다 대위조다 덴버 주지에서 근데 쪼디 코란에네 머텔 데치 만다나 지여바데 당한서 하고도 그랬어요.
I'm just setting this as an example, but I can definitely get to know that you guys have like a really good amount of practice from like when we started our session with all our dedication prayers. I can see like how great practices you guys are having.
제단이 카다나다 사무고게 카다나다 마사와지 소소소소 사야동야데 사야동야디게 소소고 초와데게 수간질 카다나다 마사지네 대야게 고주야 데디는 메데 데지 고 휴주차를 상고도스.
And then by being satisfied with what you have and having that little satisfaction, and that is also the beginning of happiness as well. Like not going back and forth with others, not fighting with others for your sake. This is also a beginning of happiness, just being satisfied with yourself.
Oh yeah, tujiche. Tadi lane tambo de inda.
Okay, now let's start with the first verse.
Oh yeah. The first verse na karisana tenjo tuche nyekar thodunders dayin kowi chole draji sherasene tskani yoda. Sika teni ke karasongo desena tambo tela tenjo ke mulu rinpoche siya de ngaranzo megi luiten de rinpoche yinba, za chenpo yinba. On dingwene chani nyekawi rintang chenpo chi yinba. De songo dos.
The first verse clearly highlights on the importance of having this human life. How fortunate are we being like being born as a human in this life. So that's how it was being focused on how it goes like hey we gain this rare ship of freedom, and that freedom and fortunate the fortune everything refers to the human life that we are having.
제가 데 말디 물루름보체 때 림보체 임바다 자 첨보 임바다 딜레 하제지 다 오늘 전에 나랑서 미기 제단 슈르다 유다 비힌 제센도다 세 골드 레다 된도다 솔파 림보체 레데데 림보체 파 민타바상 레스 또 림보체 차고야 돼야 미기 루틴들 초 베셔 요비 차는 콘소파 림보체 차서래 마도 옌 콘소 히오게 마레스.
Mhm. And then this highlights on the importance, like how fortunate us being born as a human. And then sometimes when we refer, we tend to say like the jewelries, the golden accessories, and then the silverware that we wear around ourselves, we consider them as important, right? But these are like depending on our body, they turn into because when we wear it on our neck, sometimes that's how like they come into face. But then the human life, like that is really important. Like we are really fortunate to be born as a human. So we shouldn't be comparing like the jewelry, which in our Tibetan language we consider like we call them as like nobu or which is a term like highlights like as very important thing, which is why Gishi was highlighting on that one.
배나 컴바 자첨부 지야다 무자 첨부 지야다 직당 알아서 지 모टा라 소피게 근고 요제에서 자첨부 린탕 첨부 희우즈데 줘로 대초 상마 다 미기 코근더버지 임비 차네 미자 첨부를 추구고요 바 손자 콘소 디진더버지 콘소를 린탕 디지 연전의 차소를 상고도 승예사나.
And then Gishi believes that the luxury things which we have, like our cars, watches, and then our house and all these things, which we consider important, that's because the human life is very important, right? Which is why, like, because the car is important, like for the human to go, like for traveling and everything, which is why we consider that as important. So basically, because of the human life, which is very important, that's why all these things that we need, the humans need, are considered important.
근데 임바 손자 존세 대초라 쳤다바이나 나저 원에 자 체크데 아니 보디데 홈에 보디데 당가랑 저 미기 zubote다 미기 류데 자 체크데 차레스 데나네 자 아니 미기 생칸데 다자 체크데 차레스.
By looking at this, we can clearly state that, see the importance of our human body and then the human life, and most of all, the most important thing is our human mind.
근데 임바 손자 카히기 조노그 체도 세레제 한다보다 또르제 한다보다 조노티시 지기 체도나 남쿨 찍도 한다보다 찍찍 셈바세 한다보다 근데 휴첨부 지르제게 도한테 소 근원에게 린탄 체크데 가기 임바데 고 맞춰 따한다보지 찬로로 지기도스.
Also, there are sometimes like people fight over the wealth, right? For certain like money and then wealth related, they tend to like kill people and all these things. So on those people, they are just not understanding the importance of our human life, and which is why like their importance, like they just couldn't understand how fortunate us we were for being born as a human.
대임바 송자 원에 전에 그 나랑 그 린탄 체크에도 support다 세임바데 하고비 그 토네 단 데니라 다포 야포지 접토로 제나 아니 미첼이 gen다 가게 메나 미체데 내사나 기부 히오레 상고도스.
Therefore, we should really consider how fortunate we are, and then to be born as a human, and we should cherish our the body and then the mind we have. And just by cherishing our own like human life, the life which we got, I believe that would also lead us into a peaceful life as well.
당한쪽이 디에도 발라 따데데 머레존야 지 미체 코랑 무그 체도 깔리 잡네 supo de kara cha na cha semba de kara cha na cha chene ngu rang khona ge che do kali jab chene jugyang ne tende che endus te so la ngan so ka samso la che pa na khonso ngu ko yopa do thong dos.
Mm-hmm. And then there are also people like who focuses more on the wealth part, like who consider earning is way more important than living a life. So from my point of view, I see them as a servant of the wealth, like people who are running after money. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Seda michen de la missing de chowa ji che gu yo de zambane saya tung ya su so ko peje tayang dang so chi chen ne pa gu gu yo res su por apa de yo sa shin che la.
Mm-hmm. And then as a like human being, we all need like food and everything, but we should know like being satisfied with what we have. And I mean, the needs are important.
Ya. Ta tu ji che ane tene ne ke cha nim ba de gar song re na da yin ko wi chole da ji she ra song ro wala. Ta tangjo ke mulu rimbo che za chen bon de rimbo che yin ba ina rimbo che te la leka de gar yo pa re se la ba ina ngarang so chen del de ji du ya ke leka tang chen de za ma che che shima la so so ke mong ba la ya ane pa yun rimbo la pa de ji du ya ke ten du ke pa dungen le ta wi de ji du ya ke ta leka de ta rimbo chen del yo pa re.
Mhm. And then, right now we are focusing on the fortunate of being a human life, gaining this, attaining this human life. So now, what's our goal is to accomplish the happiness, not only for this life, but for the next and coming lives as well.
Oh yeah. Tende yimba sonza mulu rinpoche ndiki tse ndiki jibo ke leka duni dede wa ina ane rinpoche te pecho tanda de tiisi jachenpo tama hiwe tazo na ji chaya nyinga yores.
Which is why we should focus on treasure this human life which we got, but we should be able to use this like in order to accomplish the happiness not only for this life but also for the next lives as well. So we should know to use this human life as a tool to accomplish the happiness for the next and all the lives that's gonna come up.
Pena ngarang soge tandan dino la tawa je tan jopa cho se tanjo ko mulu rinpoche la yores. Tawa je se de mukhomba je ta trawa se onre mukhomba je se onde ngarang so tinro te so le ngores. Tinro te so ki kar chegire sena tsendela tinro te so chegire pama ke pogo so chong chegire tene ni ya khorang so chalu yungre chathang kan la chibo chene nyam don rogre ane tene rimbo chili re onde chamba ne genjon chene parin chene khorang so ke chedi chi chon rogre se dus chene ane te ngarang so chowa cheya te saya tunya ta chi chemo cheya zonda wa te so de tinro ke che shingo res.
Mhm. Okay, and now we were talking about the fortunate human life, right? Which where like we are talking about um the eight freedom, or what was it? The eight freedom and the eight states with being at ease.
The 8 lasers and the 10 endowments.
Yeah, Kishi was referring like so even if we set an example to an animal, like even animals knows like how they can grow by themselves, and then at certain age they will start like wandering on their own, and then they will be able to grow and then continue that life as well. But us like we being born as a human having that the eight freedoms.
Yes, 8 lasers, 8 freedoms.
Uh-huh. And yeah, so we should really cherish the human life. Mhm.
wo tende yimba sonza ta ngarang zo mi sege de mulu rinpoche senge de decho dan raga mares decho dan raga mare decho le trene mulu de za chenpo chi res yandele lepa da mi se mandana jindu us mi le rangshi ke lepa yonjo teke lepa teke yawa jana na yawa pita tse thombo jaya yonjo pede rani tsa ma tse senje thai pala pa pento jaya yonjo tende lepa de jaya yonjo chi ta duwa chi jamba ina zambuli chasang tola ta yonjo chi jaya yonjo ki tende lepa chi re de khas tende lepa de.
Mm. And then our human mind is such a great learning tool. We can learn something great in order to accomplish something like for the sake of all sentient beings, and also we can learn something very bad as well.
tende indu tsambane ane nganso ku mulu rumbo che seya de yawe chi kangla pesho tang thuya ngone trane rangi kuin la chi dechi duya ki langa chi kangla ro thuya ki chi ngone trane ti ro gugure junse karesana rangi ro so tsama de dewan depa da dunge mende pa chinso yinbe chane langa te yakhe de yimba de randa yen sul ta ne thong de ji re de resta.
Which is why it is really important to cherish the fortunate human life that we were born as, and then also we should do something in order to accomplish the happiness, not just for yourself, but for the sake of all sentient beings as well. And we should also follow or go with this path because everybody like wants happiness.
tujiche. Ta tende yinba sonza mulu rinpoche na ngarang salo yodepa, tsa chenpo tena ngarang salo yodepa, ripa chambu ta dendengi, tenda wade ngarang salo yodepe kap tela, ta karisong resena nyin tang sendo yewa mepa na nyen sen gomba jase lale yin sede nima mayinba, tsen mayinba, ta chik mune chane nima chila to tuson sawa nangi ke tende chene ta bezon kan che tutu chi che gugure se te ni bezon chetan te ya tambu susok ancholo te tenene susok pardola ana sano tane tanda ne tan te so sama samje ke salan roya ka langa te so tata tende re endu mundo susok sano yapo tane ra yapo thosona ana gom jap chene gom chene rangju ko nyomo ba to goya te tangone tane jase lane jase sanju semba ka lane ke domda te teres.
And then with the great learning to our mind and then the fortunate human life, we should start focusing and then practicing the Buddha Dharma. And we should start the practicing by by putting our hard work. First, we need to hear, like listen over, like study. And then after that, we need to think, which would be reflection, and then meditate unwavering night and day in order to free yourself and others from the ocean of the cyclic existence, which would be the samsara. And this is the practice of bodhisattvas. The first one is done.
Oh yeah, that the tendrik lojong chia te rang ta yin kuin da yin koi chole daji she sonrwa ta khowa te janso le pe ya rani tuzin le pe ya ane tende yimba sonza janso ko parol ndo go na tuzin le pe lengo yimba sonza ta rani koi dunge le yu chene thapi ki dewa chile ndo go na ta rani ke tronda bo chi rani ke luten del pe che tan chene tan ro go res ne te sombares.
And then in the first verse, the practice, our human life, like us, we were was set it as an example of a ship, and then the cyclic existence, the samsara was set it as an example of the ocean. So in order to cross the ocean and to get into the sacred place, which would be the happiness land, in order to get there, like we need a ship, right? In order to cross the ocean. So our human life would be the ship.
That the Tsikang Tambo de Litinde Yens, Tedan Reviton, Tawatele, Chegug in the West, Lancelot.
Yep. That's it for the first practice, like the first verse. So if you guys have anything to add or any questions, you can let me know.
Maybe somebody might like to say how their realization, what this first verse is about is a precious human life, recognizing a precious human life, and all of you have been with us for at least a year, 2 years, 3 years, or more, and how you find that you are thinking more about Dharma, Buddha Dharma during your everyday. That you're not just thinking about the work that you have to do, the family that you're involved with or something, but you're also thinking about the Dharma more and more and how it can help others who are suffering, and also how it helps you to recognize the source of suffering that you're going through and how it is that you're able to overcome that. Does anybody have any questions or comments? This is a discussion group. So Geshe is very interested in hearing your comments. So if someone has something to say, please speak right up.
Commodore Jace, I have a question. So, we're Westerners, and it's not part of our upbringing that, there are multiple lives, right? In Western culture, we say, you're born and you die, and we commonly think of as there is one life. And so I know that in Tibet, it is more of a culture where multiple lives is just what you grow up with. But I also know that there are some logic that has been used to help Westerners understand why multiple lives are logical, why there are logical proofs to why there are more than one life. And I would like to know if Deshe would share some information about that. Thank you.
Thank you. 아산 딜러스 카라 당 ngaranzu di nupcho aji michi inde sam nganzu ya chalon chungde di kyo mangbo yore la shora cerab ni cerab do la di asta suso aji ya chalon chunga gaji di kuyu di nangru che meres kyo chirang jing ngun do ji che thong la ni endi do ji ma shi pheba nangru ning ta ngaranzu khare lukswe do shredo khande lorda kanda ma kyo chimal ni rangshing ke sawi shu pheba inse shul khelen de gyo ro den do sta 다 탄다 안데 체럽니 안데도 요아도다 덴데도 요레라 다 디스직 컨트롤 빼당 샤니 다 간다 금세 요교도지 토니 직송에나 직송로 치다스 디스 무즈야 덴데도 도야 덴데송스
도잖아 단다 디지요와 코리그 som바나기 리유랑 토네 바바이나 제왕아시 여레스네 칸을 랍데야라고 지다 치제이나 체지랑 만체와 지게 체지랑 문제 제대로 받아 데버레스 이나야 제와 나마다 치마 원에 여반다고 산노 디마 땅에 대한 바바 참하게 데 땅투 그래서나 땅투고 말레스 가르쳐 그래 칸을 러바 장에 마도 만체와 양디 자차자 이치 영역상다 지야 원에 그 딩을 봐서서 네 저랑 담도 전세 디바나 시제네 주의 전에 전세단 대위 토니 신에 대한 뜻이 뉴뉴레스
and just like you said, like Kunganimala, Tibetans, like with their culture, like everybody believes in next life and all these things, the multiple life theory. But if we think like in a more logical way, which you were referring, I believe it's kind of same. Like for Tibetans, they believe that there is a next life, but everybody's kind of not practical and. It's more of a saying though, like in the Tibetan culture as well, like there is a next life, but people are not like more realistic into it.
근데 인도 단단히 그 랜드 가리인세나 제왕아마다 치마다 제발라 토마다 근데 매바 장가 망보 여바된 안속에 전세 야슈데 가르칼 두고 그래서나 담봉 안한속 줄라 시바세야디 여바디 인지 미지 두토와 제고 그래서 레팔 땅 냠던 제와 여딩이 히바세야데 주다 투주다 레주 메딩이 히바세야데 근데지 여바데 담봉 안한속 세보 차투고 그래서
Now, therefore, what I would like to say is that we all should believe in this one. There is a wisdom, like a mind, like logic thing, which we say, like even if you die in this one, and then in the next life, we will be able to take this wisdom with us, right? Not the body. What's that certain term, Lensla? Like not the wisdom. I don't know if it's called wisdom, but like the one which we can take in our next life, the wisdoms.
Sure, the wisdom, the karma that we take with us, sure.
Oh, okay.
Consciousness, I think.
Hmm?
Consciousness.
Yeah,
consciousness or
uh-huh.
consciousness
Yeah, the
Conscious.
consciousness. So this is that we all should begin in believing like there is a consciousness that which we keeps taking like in as we like goes by in our lives.
Different the bring karla wara so consciousness la de lepa da mandawa ji yoba hipa la ya de zu menjo chi trima menjo thuya da re ke menjo tende hipa ji yoba de tambo ha ko tu go res hipa de
Consciousness
yoba
is a certain like a wisdom, kind of wisdom, which doesn't have a body or a mind or nothing, but it just like we can keep going with this consciousness. So we all should be able to get to know like the consciousness, importance of that one.
당이 가르상고도세나 히바 요바데 만수 시탄다 데보 제가나 히바 요바데 히 데보나 지레데 당가랑 좀 뭐다 냠도 칭리바다 냠도 드링 제네 히바 그 개차지 히 구디 잠바네 히바 세야디 요바데 가라하고도세나 페나 렌스 페마 도젤라게 가르상고요 가르힝고요 가르팅고요 네 통투고 말레스 레팔 따주 제바 이나야 코 가르 상고요 바다 땡고요 바다 저 참아데 레팔 따바 이노 지진이니 하고 두고요 말이스 근데 임바 손자 히발라야 돼 추차나로 따야 매된죠 도스지 내당 된데 그 돈에 하고 못 투돼야지 미기 잼바세야지 베게 나로 히바세야지 투지 매대바지 여대바데 따 간소 그 용의 돈이 띠지 하고 돼야라고 지 요레스
Now, what Gishi believes is that as long as we are able to consider the importance of consciousness, which is a very like significant or a certain a very great presence which we all have, it's more like we won't be able to get to know like what Lensla is thinking right now. We won't be able to read his mind. There is a like a conscious mind, like a consciousness that thing is going on. So even we won't be able to like detect what he's thinking with the modern technologies. Like we won't be able to detect anything with the technology or anything. So the consciousness that is present within the being is very important.
근데 지레 다 히바 뭐야
Can I say one thing? So it's like we all here tonight all share a consciousness that has brought us here, that we're not satisfied with what Western culture has offered us, what religion has offered us, and the Western traditions and so on, and that we all have this consciousness that there's something else. And we've been looking at the Buddha Dharma to answer that question, to say, what is that something else? We all have that consciousness that there's something more than this everyday life that we're living and so on.
The antidote chagores, especially the consamal ganda susu ngarang chigera susu rikshungni chulu do matin shagyu disu ich mati the le maragyo gaji doshini the ganda ma the antidote ni shepa dojig leoras. Oh, one chin sunyam to do the zong the ganda one the kogore.
네네네. Good, thank you. 제가 단단 안서 히바세야 줘라. 다 쇼진에 안서 히바세야 돼. 멋지기 산노 하고 투에 면조. 통투에 면조 레팔 진리기 투치 다제 가르 제바이나 그 가르 땡겨 가르 제로 제게 산이 가르 제로 제게 세야 돼. 코로나는 거 맞도 예 지기 레라고 희야 추는 문도와. 데 메드 잠바는 메게 나노 사모 세야 줘라. 팅킹 레데데. 데 지기 통마투 데데 코 주진지 마임바. 레파라 마임바 텐데 지기 토네 세포지 하고 투그 레라 아니 쇼지는 거랑서 제왕아마다 치마 덴댕에게 들어가서 텐데 펜션 용디고 요레스 당 나랑을 빼도지 야바이나 네게 줄이 히바 요바데 나가 뇽소 체크데 가르 인세나 다 야야야 레운데 잠바네 가르서 그래 때말라 나가 줄이 히바 요베 뇽소 체크데 가르 인세나 네게 키바 요바탄 제와 심마 요바팅에 그 단도 세큐데 가두 하고 살았으나 소소 치칼라 같네를 세큐데 하고 살았 삼사팅 그도스
Okay, Gishi said, if he set himself as an example, what he believed that would prove like consciousness, and then believing in having a next life, like if we need a proof, like at certain stage, he believed that when he's at his like maybe at the end of the life, like in that late stage of life, where if he's near his deathbed, something like that, if that time comes, then he really believed like he would be able to get to know like the he has consciousness, and would be able to proceed, like proof that there is a next life and all these things.
쇼진이 히발라야 될 코랑의 체인다고 지어로 히발라야 될 가주 장나 장요레스 공나 공야요레스 니 가르세나 죽진이나 체요레스 벨 차게만 가라서 춘 춘다고 지인바는 코 사보스야 될라 사보 베디 코 사보 가두이나 사보스야 요레스야 요 말레스 메탄데 바나 나히질 초 존로니 초티 잠에 찬로야 요레스 히바세안다고 될 공대바 이나 갑자기 이나 야 공바체네 겐고 창로데 잠바네 템바 추는 마제와체 템바 템보네데 든리 요레스 든리 임바 손자코 주진라 마임바 코치 공바체나 탐에도 폐 요딩 게 든리지 요바데 당하는 조치 공당의 차네야 세보지 하고 요레스.
On the other hand, consciousness is something like even if we keep practicing, there is no limit to that. If we keep practicing, it will keep growing. For example, if we started heating up a water, like if we just keep it on the like stove for a long time, eventually the what is that thing? There will be no water left in the vessel, right? If we keep boiling that thing. So, but if we keep practicing consciousness, there's no limit to that. It will keep growing. And consciousness is not something like which has a body, like how liquid when we put them in a like glass of water, then it turns into the shape of the glass thing, right? But for consciousness, there is no body.
근데 임바 손자 단다 나는 좀 먹을 주불 차게 빠이나야 로니슈 단 손주 때와 빠르다 쫑아 주도 때와 빠르 리제 같이 제 빠이네 양파 망파 제니 시부 제 용야 연조 야로 이쪽 때와래 온데 주보데 랑히 그 귀네 아는 것만하기 리제 제 마통에 같이 제 빠이나 파 마통에 충무토에 찬로저 콜 체에 제주요레스 이빠세야
And
될
if
텐데
we
면조.
if we set an example to our own human body, we can like how how people young kids, like they started gym and going to gym, exercising, all these things they do like by the age of 16 till 30, and then they keep continuing doing all this, and then they gain muscle and all these things, right? But then by the age of 40, 50, if they are following whatever that regular thing which they are doing, they won't be able to gain more muscle and all these things. There is a limit, right? But for consciousness, if you keep practicing, you will keep growing more and more.
다 히바 요바데 망기데 띵투바이나 아니 히바데 가랑초 첸데네 미디게 zupo rapa jiyorwa supo rapa de leka majengi chanro de zambane anu ko wu chene henro ya jida henro de denene 닝다 레파단 수본 델라 네딩에 히바데 마튼 제네 아니 주보 진 연다지나 판 주고요 바데 주보 사바사장지나 판 주고요 바데 파밍알 파 휴고요 바데 아니 리망 토니 히투그레스 데 제와시말 투슨 로고요레스.
And then as long as we are able to like get to understand that the consciousness is there within us, and if we are being able to accept those theory, then eventually we will be able to understand like how next life exists, and then the body just stays here, but then the consciousness like a soul, it just goes out and then moves to the like another body or another life, and then it forms like a rebirth thing. And that's how Gishi also mentioned like there are certain cases where like few people would be like they remember like their previous life, right? There are certain stories, and then like how few people will be like they get what is that thing? Deja vu, like believing yeah.
Past lives or something like
Uh-huh.
that. That
Yeah, stuff like that.
yes, like a clairvoyance or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
근데 인디 제가 다 나나서 양티 간라 티스 상노타 곰제 두스 제나야 수솔 라지 트용 거레스 니 단다 휴에데 텐데다 오치 다 제왕 아마다 심마다 차상 켈렘바이나 수솔 케펜 가르 요르세나 수솔 케펜라보데 가른 두세나 간소 상노 단단라보 제바이나 동네 망보지 제두고 두스 제왕 아마다 심마 켈렘야 조르와 le junde khen ya chewa nga ma da shima khen le ya o dikpa tang gewa se ya so khen le ya tike khar phen thogu du se na susu leka duwa la njun ru ya te mambo ji kan ro ya chi tang ane chil kar du se na chik susu gan rewe za chenpo tang ta chik susu gan re thobe meten de mambo ji thung ru go re gemba du so thung ru go re le 콘소 짜면 겐루고 말다 양 인조 제와 심마텔 제와 잠사til 제와 쇼스네 명랑 야포지 제디 잠만에 소소로 센소데 히부 차거두스
Mhm. And then another thing is as long as we accept the existence of previous life and next life, I believe we would also have a lot of benefit through this by accepting karma and then sins, virtue, and all these things. This would really help us in stopping like a lot of bad things as well. For example, if we are about to do some bad actions, if we believe in next life and then the karma, the outcome of all these doings, then that is stopping us, right? By believing in this theory, it's also stopping us doing something bad. So, which is a good like a benefit out of like by believing this one. And also it plays a very great role in as a condolence. For example, like when our like near ones and dear ones, when they pass away, we would be very sad and deepened in sorrows, right? But then if we believe in next life, it's acts as a condolence to ourselves, because we would be praying like a better life for them, right? For our near ones and dear ones who passed away, we would be praying for them, which is benefiting like both ways. So as long as we believe in or like the existence of previous life and next life, so it's kind of beneficial like in a way.
텐데다 오치 le 딘다 오치
Yeah, and yeah, that's it, like a short answer from Gishi's end.
Can I follow up with the question?
Sure.
So, in and I think it's all of us would, as Westerners, we would believe that, our bodies came onto this earth because of our parents. Our parents came together, our mothers became pregnant from our fathers, and from those cells that came together, our bodies were created. Why isn't our consciousness also something that we inherit from our parents?
All right, thank you. Antidolas manzuda kare the arimido da takanda manda jik tsenri da just ni na ngarang so antidol shizu yora pamani kya na lo ni antidol jik chungni ni pugu di chunggo re do la yora ni antidol indu samba an tanda kare shejare shepare la di khajini ma pamani gyudi ma khajin the yo mares.
뜨제체 beautiful question. Thank you. 다디 때려다 상반지. 히바데 파마네 마 주대 말 히바데 다 체장 단다 체랑레도 와스. 빨라빨라레 아마레 파지 마지 임바이나야 조조가 텐조데 소소가 텐가 말에 소소 텐조데 소소 어마 텐가 말에 베데 간사 카가 소소 레스 당안족이 최나로라 데와스 게와 두나야 소소 두구레 디파사나야 소소가 상구레 슈마라 동해지 중바이나 소소 냥구레 데지지 중바이나 소소 냥구레 세야주로와 따띵무에네서다 툼바데레스 찌찌리 셰르 제데야나보다 찌찌기 냥로 제데야존나보다 찌기찌기 산로 땅로 제데야존나 띠짜오니니 요 말스 띠카르잖아 간사 소소소 레차르스다디
Mhm. Gishi said, yes, through this we can prove that consciousness is is you, right? It's not something like which you can inherit in with your parents, because whatever you are thinking, like even if you have your own like elder sibling, his thought and your thoughts are completely different. Your parents' thoughts are different from you, and you're like, despite everybody, like for example, if we consider like how we are not inheriting consciousness, in that point we can say like they are two siblings, and then both one would think everything differently, and through that we can prove that consciousness is individual. So and then each individual, like your actions, you need to pay for your own consequences, like your action you pay for that. So which is why like the consciousness belongs to like you yourself, like certain each individual. So it's completely different. You won't be able to inherit in that one.
투지체 대임바 손다 체장한도 고리게 송만나기 다가라래 파마게 짜네 나랑 저거 수수고 zu보디 파마 짜네 콩이거라 콩인데 자만에 범어이나 아말라 티진 라센다 보제다 버이나 아발라 티진 라센다 보데 수보기 차네 대유한도 와스 이나야 난 상로 땅도게 차네 ko abalin da se da da amalin da se da de chun mundu wa se pena da cha tyon ba da hya cha tu ba da ko abani che pa ina abagi jasi zung jabo che anu kho da mang chong ma ja gu re samsa ten de ge res da cha tyon ba hya cha tu ba na te chama yu che ne da ba ra du shung che ne wen bal ten che ne anu tu se chama la sen hi hi to wa zo ya ndo zoya ga langa til chinge de res sen edi kha ga su so res
Just like you said, we get like our body from our parents, right? Which is why sometimes we see like similarities in our parents, like the son looks like dad, and then the daughter looks like the mother, like that. But our minds or the consciousness is completely different, because there's no way like your mother is compassionate, which is why the daughter is compassionate. There's nothing like that, right? Sometimes like even to very bad parents, the kids would be born as a very kind-hearted ones as well. And then the best example can be of Buddha Shakyamuni, like how his dad is a king who is focused on the importance of the nation, and then enlarging the like nation and all such things, while Buddha himself um, seeks the importance of like enlightenment and all these things. So like the path which they choose were completely different. So the consciousness is individual.
그제 단내는 뭐 인스턴트 거든.
Thank you.
I had heard in a teaching that a definition of what consciousness was that it's something that knows and it's invisible, that's a definition of consciousness. So it seems like to me, if that's a definition, then my consciousness would be very similar to my parents in that way. They both are invisible and they know, and all those other parts that make them different are result of causes and conditions of karma that happen, as my consciousness after it was separate from my parents, as it kind of grew and developed.
Mhm. Thank you. So, 근데 코란기 이니마 최저 로직 장애 토라 아니 가라 셰발라디 이니 지 하코야 로직체 아니 수메교 통해 메교직레라 딘데지 신송스 셰바 치니로디 아니 원딜라 디삼바 아니 코라 따디 원치나 파마니마 틸레라디라 디스 더 유교 로스투스 안다 가지나 파마디 유아 하코고라 이나 파마디 통해 메교로 차두다 덴드롤은 즉 안드로 송스다.
네. 파마게 히바지 수솔 춘주세야다 수속 히바 차세야 줘라. 대자원이니요 말에. 파마게 배경안서 주보때다 루고때서 파마자는 출레기요 받다 세버와. 이나양 남속 히바세야 돼 나랑서 수속 게 히바제 수솔로 추용 거마도 파마 히바데 수솔로 추용해요 말에서. 아니 줌 매바다 때서 사마처럼 소야데 다라래 덴바레 투지세.
And then Gishi said that the definition which you were saying was whatever he knows, and how it's being invisible and then not having a body form, the which I was referring. And he said the consciousness is for ourselves. It's not something like which we can pass on. We won't be able to get or gain consciousness from our parents. Mhm. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Like he doesn't have much, no additional things to be added on that. The definition was the right one.
Thank you.
nga chikshwe pena mechi ga ngala tanda khatu keja tine cherang chewa shima thong duwe la ne keja tibai na nge gonda thong mundu laga sares nge thong mundu us nga mechi ke cherang chewa ngama ya theng duwe sela ne keja tibai na nge te theng mundu la ne le jagres nge demba dem to chagwa im sungza ta yina ya repeat ke lang te ta tu si hinju mambo ji cheun de sambane chewa ngama da shimani de meba ina ta mundu samsan raw ji ta te ta ta ndu samsan raw ji ta de lokhashi kone pe de kana kansa ko suso lo chu sano taun de ta sebon de chasons.
Mhm. And then, for example, right now, if someone asks me, like, can you see your next life? I would say no, I don't. And then if they ask, like, can you remember your past life? I would say no. But with the studies and then with many studies and everything, right now, like as I live my life, like at this age of 40, now I started to believe, like, there is previous life and next life, but I don't see them or I don't remember a previous life that I have.
Thank you.
Could I say that just looking through a photo album of myself when I was a child, I'm looking at my past life?
아니 계시 나랑 수수기 가래 나랑 좀 나랑 빠르게 샤기만 보여라. 아니 친구가 이게 보고 가지 빠르지 통스나 아 원디 빠르들 따니 땅아 나라지 가래 경험을 따디어도 언질라요라스.
le chunchun de la ta ne te sen de chunchun de wale la choge je de te tagaram mares.
Maybe you can say like you're looking at your previous life, but since you're looking at the childhood picture of this life, like when you are youth, right? Of this life, so I don't think that's applicable. But certainly you can use that term though.
Ta ngala chi kar shwe yasana nga khatu ina ma jab chene ri kan la ya the de sa tende chi ta ri para la ande mami kor chene ri para la zu chene na nga chon thasa menjo de chi na la chui de wa teng ni la yang se tang do s ni la te ta ni ngara ngara sa no da hinju chi che de nga nge ma jami pen le di tsambane ne jami ke mami ke tha kor chene peba mambo se yore tende ki trendo di tsambane se shen jo ji menro sanga di hiu sango yos.
Mhm. And another thing I would like to add is I had this one certain dream which I keep dreaming like every stage of my life. I've been dreaming this. When I was child, I remember dreaming this about like 2 to 3 times, and then even like these days, at this age, there are time like he keeps dreaming about this one, like being stuck in a place like with surrounded by Chinese armies. Gishi has this dream like it keeps like he has this dream like repeated one for like different like for many years. So he thinks that there's no reason he would be dreaming this one, right? Because he wasn't watching anything related or nothing like that. If we go with the scientific one, like subconscious mind, if he was watching certain things, there was no with those logics. But like after going through like doing all these researches or like by studying himself, he thinks maybe at his like past life, maybe he died like how we say like many Tibetans like they flew Tibet and then the Chinese army had shot fires and all such things, right? So maybe he believed like this certain dream which he had been dreaming like till now, maybe that's like a part of his previous life. He thinks so, but he wasn't sure. He was just sharing that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Then Tengan so muntin roka yanjo tuwa yana.
Yeah, if you guys have anything to add.
Is it fair to say that consciousness is another concept of the mind? And as a concept of the mind, it's relative to this, that, or the other thing. And that what we're trying to get to is the freedom from the consciousness, the freedom from the mind, the freedom from what it is to be a human being. A human being is a stepping stone to liberation, to that which is beyond suffering. Can consciousness lead you to suffering? That I'm aware of these things and I have emotions about these things, and my consciousness becomes a cause for my suffering. So in that way, because it is relative, it is something that is that what we're seeking is something that is beyond what we call consciousness.
Okay, let me try translate it, and then I'm not sure if I get it correctly first. So sorry about that though. Okay, 아샹딜레스 카레 안수 단다 직도 셰바 레아스다 아니 로가지 디르스 로다 셰바 레디 로가로아
Lo lana pala tala na lo la ya dine chipa
네.
chichare chipa tenchire.
다 간다 아니 안수 마인드 레아지기야 아니 레파
Mind
삼
lana hipparare. Mind lana hippare, consciousness lana hippare, lo ripa hippa se so samade min lo hare mato tanda chipar.
아니 카레다 인지톤 셰당로 치나 아니 땅 안주기 리파 지지 갸당로 치나 아니 안주 땅 아랑스 탄다 카레 둡데다 셰바니 엔디로 친다 안주 다 탈파 타벨은 탈피 람라딜 드래가지 삼디 지디갸 오라 셰발라디 카레 안데ンデ 야야 찍찍지 돈다 간다 콜 타요 마레 돌라디아샤 다 간다 만다 셰파다 덴데기 귀니 삼노 당초다 직라고라다 삼노 당초도 로 디기 켄기 아니 둥예도 온데 융시라 잠잠 다 간다 로다 둥예 당 탈파 돌라니야 콘조 콜라 안데로 치니 삼노 당초기 라완디 당체 아니 원디라 셰파체 아니 셰파단 덴데기 ngene 둥예 딜리 루에스
Re.
먼저 탈파라 디 민고라
What is that? Tanda hippa lana lo lana ripa lana teso tenchi jirwa. Ta hippa lana so changa mambo hiu yores. Pena ngara so control anger la ya anger ana attachment la teso sama hippa res. Teso lo duwa shode. Ana lo yawi shode karesana shamba da tsewa da hasam se ya teso lo yawa che. Tende imba sonza nganso lo jangure semba jangure se de semba ngemba teso de ma chungru tanya zame tanya shiba yawa deso ya gombe chene ya per chene ana kunu nyop tuya wo di che de na ngaran so lo jam ana san je se na ma se na zo shiba de zama zanja so ki shiba de la shiba duri nyen se de dus demand wo dus chene chu zama ji dus nyoma se ya wa tana yi ma yin ba chene tama tanja he shiba de zama zanja cha tu so na ne Sanji Chanugores.
Leslie Gishi believes that the concept of mind, which would also be the consciousness as well. So basically, for consciousness, there would be so many. Like consciousness is indirectly mind training as well. The anger, the attachment which we feel are also like a part of the consciousness, and then the compassionate and kind-heartedness. All these are also kind of the mind or the consciousness. So basically, both of them can be considered as one, like, but a different term. And yeah, so we are focusing on the consciousness where like there is no longer anger or attachment, like all those negative emotions. One second, sorry. My PC is running low.
Catches.
Okay, well, Jamba is trying to make her computer work. I can help jump in and help continue if needed.
Please go right ahead.
Yes.
Well, Yangshin's back with us, yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so basically what Gishi was saying that the consciousness and the concept of mind, everything is just the same term. And in order to gain that liberation, to accomplish that enlightenment, we all need consciousness or that mind training where there is no attachment, no anger, only like the compassion and all those things. If Dojila, you could add more.
Yeah, I have no more. That's fine.
뭐야 다 된대래서 말이야 단단 가서 히바 주요로와 히바 때라다 예 체리바데 소이네 레팔 당가 망보 휴츠도 다디 레팔 가사칸도 nganso 히바 때라 히바 코란지 히바라 자위 예와 니제 자위 예와 니가 나로네 셈다 senjung 때들라 안에 빼 예와 장는데 바파도스 지네 예라 체그레스 된데 임바 손자 녀모 빼게 코르테다 게위 코르테다 도스체네 안에 히브 장요레스
So basically, just like how the in the scientific ways, how like brain has many different lobe, like how people differentiate brain in a very different way. Just like that, even the mind, the consciousness, that also like in the Buddhist studies, it is also considered like a very vast one, and with a lot of like different emotions, like all these things. It's like everything's under consciousness.
Last, if I have a quick questions, if
Please, go ahead, Dorji.
thank you very much. So in the earlier, the previous gentleman asked a very interesting question about how come that we are the flesh and blood of parents, and then also the consciousness is also hereditary or passed down to us. So. I don't know the real thing, but there's an interesting way of describing how, these things when life is formed at the time of forming the life, how the consciousness also entered at that moment, and then it become part of the bodies. So I don't know if Lance you'll be able to explain that. So that kind of solved the answers the questions to the gentleman that earlier asked that question, like how it is completely separate from the body and the mind. I mean, from the our body and flesh. So we think that this is a part of it, but actually it completely comes from somewhere else. However, it just joins. It just get into at the very moment of these things. The intimacy of the mother and fathers. So that's how they have an explanation, very kind of a beautiful explanation, but I don't know how to explain that at all. But at that very moment, at the moment of conceptions, how that the consciousness entered into there, and then it become a part of the body until it leave the body and then goes away to another kind of outside. And then consciousness is also awareness. Consciousness is also like a mind awareness. um, when I asked this question, someone told me this, like, for example, I'm sitting here right now, but then I can immediately, my consciousness or mind can travel to my home country in Tibet. Like in split second, I can have everything, everything comes to my mind very clearly, very vividly, like what happens there, the mountains, the rivers, and everything. Is that how a consciousness is working, or is it really the ability of the consciousness to travel to that far away, like 500 miles, thousands miles away, and in so instantly, or is it more or less like a retrieving the memory that we have it, or does it has to do with the consciousness? Just a thought for yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Geshe, can I make a comment?
Sure.
Another great teacher, um, Trangu Rinpoche, who is a Rinpoche in the Karma Kagyu. And he wrote a book called Everyday Consciousness and Primordial Awareness, was the name of the book. And it goes in and it talks about 8 levels of consciousness. And included in that are our eyesight, our senses, our brain that processes what we hear, what we smell, what we taste, etc., like that. And also the consciousness of ourselves, our consciousness of our ego, of who we are individually, and so on. And the 8th consciousness was called the Alaya consciousness, the storehouse consciousness. And what this tries to refer to, or does refer to, is that which we take with us when our mother and father, the egg and the sperm, come together. It is our Alaya consciousness that unites with the egg and the sperm. And then we become a zygote, we become in the mother's womb, and finally we're born, and so on. The primordial awareness is that which sees all of this, recognizes all of this, understands all of this as all being phenomenal, as all being temporary, as all being something that is manufactured through our brain, through our mind, and so on, including the Alaya consciousness. It's what we attach to. And we think, as human beings, we think that we know everything, that we can know everything. And that we become attached to that. And that becomes our source of suffering and all the myriad forms of that. The primordial awareness is able to let go of that and to be able to be free from all concepts. And what we're discussing here, the consciousness are but mind features of the mind. They are fabrications of the mind, and we're chasing that now. And it's healthy to do that, but it's more healthy to be able to recognize that it's just something that we are creating for ourselves in this conversation, and it needs to be liberated.
Odona Carsons Yamacham.
Doldi sanskare lensla korangi genroji kaji mingnangsa rinpoche di ani wandi ki kare sheba kaji kangla ya thebroji ten yores ta di nanglo la ani sheba ngo thwe thoni ani rangsusu ki lolen rangsusu ngo zindang lo ga jik che ani sheba le ya rigdol ni yo ges ro tuen 아니 디젤 가는서 카레 수다 티로도 렌 창마 지겨라 수기 초라도 다 디게 찾아는다 디게 창마 가는서 셰베 공도로 젤로단 콘주 월까지 라 추고리 라샤 아니 디젤이야 카르송스레나 가는서다 마숙 슈게 숙라야 마다 셰바 슈라고라 간다만 가는서 지 파마니기 체닌다 부디 중도자바 람사 슈라고라 다
Shipati Piki Pumbotiman Zu.
셰바디 주야디
Zula.
남시 슈게까지 딜라 다 원디 컨데도레 원디 랑스도 지케라 컨데로다 안디로지야 다 간다만다 나랑초기 수수기다 로단 디기 삼당당 디 컨데로라나 다 창마 신규에 온주 창마 장투그레라도 딘도 따두디 징그라 아니 원도 이나 디양 동의기 자오 조지기 안레스 아니 디젤 카라 아니 디두 아니 동의기 자지그레스 아니 이나가랑 수기디 르당 칭와 체고레라샤 야두 여진 카라 딜라랑 차데 요마레스 원도치 딱 간다만다 하 코고두스라니 아니 다 셰바다치 아니 믹스 한다 숙슈에가지 디강라 아니 도질라치 니게기 숙셴부로 디키즈 티도
Zuhule Yomare.
술 셰바슈
Zuganlo Nahi Pa Huba Laura.
남시파슈
Amek Kota de Punel Gombuchi Turwa. Amanikin Deva Chepala Tene Pege Gombuchi Tur, Gombuti Nanola, and a Nahi Pan Zujine, and a Rimbi Chachine, and Anchota Mida to Suzota, Unjota Tonjine, and Ma Jea de Chihuahua. Kashi Namshi Chunu Mahum will forget the Trolando, Nahi Huma Tujine, Karasegura, forget Trolando, Nahi Humundo Kakila, Nahi Huluag, Yenda the Yomarwa. Let teach it a money. Puji du Korani Hinjos on the Jede, the Ninian de Chagi or Sidus.
Okay, Gishi doesn't have much thing to add on that. He was agreeing with Lensla's points, and he said that the how like we believe like the consciousness which enters into the body, like where the egg and like where a zygote has been formed, then that's when like if the zygote has been formed, that's when like the consciousness had entered the body as well. That's how like it develops further, and which is why there are like certain cases where like baby deformities are being born, and then sometimes like baby doesn't grow much, and then they were dead inside the mother's belly, like stomach. They are like all these things because if
Stillbirth.
uh-huh.
Still, but like when child were born, like then dead, that's called stillbirth, right?
Yeah, all these things are basically like all depends on when you need when these consciousness that needs to go there, not go like how like it has to be formed attached along with the zygote, and then that's how like it forms. Yep, Gishla.
Do you think, and this is a question for anybody, but in particular Geshe because he's with us and his great wisdom, do you think that human beings can know everything?
이시켜라기 미래디기 가래 창마 싱그레 라이들 이치여. Yes, I believe like human beings can know everything.
Tanda nga home bengis rete nge chasang hin tugu mandus pel chakya bana lens kama doje la tanda kar sam digi yoba kar ten digi yoba sani chagi kar yoba tiso nge zawani ne hin mandus tende ta pena ngai ki tanda me he de kar sana nge ki tiso chasang thoya la drip dinge ke dripa se te he ba ke chatore nga gi jula maripa yoba sunzan te thoya la drip de yores 다 다자 좀 샤자 두 번다고 차기가 바이나 단단 잠불리는 용라 제는 가로 제바이는 유요 말에데 꽃에 평바 줘바레데 다 다자 좀 샤자 두 바기 저랑 가르 상구요 바 가르 쟁기요 바 산이 가르 제로 지기요 바 참아 찌진이니 싱그레스타 가르서는 공기 로 잠잠잠 제네 로데라 통야를 듭딩이 그 듭바 차상데 참아 쇠사레스 코금 셈바 차상데 메다 마소는 가와따 바이나 통딩이 게 던데게 드지 메딩이 던데 히고 참아나 이 차데레스
Gishi said, like Gishi as a human being as well, he does not know like what Lensla is thinking right now, what's his plan for tomorrow, but he believes like we all will know like everything, because the reason for him not knowing like what Lensla is thinking and then what's his plan for tomorrow, it's all because he's still covered with the negativities and all the negative emotions, and he still has like those attachments. And he believed that if Buddha Shakyamuni like great beings like Lord Buddha themselves, they can foresee everything, like foresee us everything, like what we are planning, we are thinking and everything. Because the reason for Buddha Shakyamuni being able to see like everything clearly like a mirror is because he had like trained his mind, practiced consciousness and all those things into a great level, like where he had liberated and then attained enlightenment, and he has cleared his mind away from all the negativity and all the attachments, which is why beings like Buddha Shakyamuni, they would be able to see everything clearly like a mirror. But me, like as a human being, despite thinking like I know everything, but still I won't be able to see because I still have like all the emotions and then attachment and everything attached with me. That is why.
나 연주 띠효 좋아지. 배낭 알아서게 상주 그 생바세야 되게 삼지 그 공부 누구요레스. 삼지 그 공부 누야 돼야 셈지 그 로든 간르진 제고바 이나 된 제야게 체도 삼지 그 공부 누구요레스. 삼지 그 공부 톱드 잠바네 셈지 그 가르 상구요 봐. 셈지 그 가르 누구요 봐. 셈지는 왜네 가르 구구요 봐. 내가 그 동에데 간데서 도구고요 봐. 타투 그 데치데 간데서 누구요 봐. 대초 콘솔 카투 바 찌찌니니데 그 챙고를 마도 때 만chen 바이나 그 베게들 단다 루투고 말레스.
Mhm. And then, for example, for the bodhicittas, those great beings, bodhisattvas, those great beings who practices bodhicitta, and they are practicing bodhicitta for the sake of like all sentient beings, in order to gain enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings, right? If these great beings does not have that great level of mind training or the consciousness, then they would not be able to like guide us or like show us the practices, because they are attaining liberation and enlightenment for the sake of all human beings, right? So for them, without knowing the so yeah, basically Gishi is highlighting that yeah, in order to get liberation and all these things, the great beings like Bodhi sattvas, they had practiced bodhicitta and everything, and without great like mind training and the consciousness, they won't be able to guide everyone into the right path.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I don't think we're finished with this conversation. I think that this topic is a very provocative topic and has a lot of nuance to it and so on. And we will come back to this topic. But at the same time, does anybody have any other thing that you'd like to say about this now? Because while it's on our minds, fresh in our minds, we should invite everybody to have something to say. So please, if anybody does, speak right up. Dorji?
Yeah, one. So we refer to Buddha as the enlightened one, the omniscient, and so, but we all have a potential to gain Buddhahood and enlightenment. So only then we will become omniscient. And in Tibetan, we will also have a word for that, Tanji Chemba. Tanji Chemba means all knowing everything. That's the answers to your question. So not ordinary human beings, we don't have that ability. We are these things, we have so much ignorance, and we don't have that, we have reached that level. But only when we become a Buddhahood, then we will that's why Buddha is also known as omniscient, right? They know everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Next.
Could I ask a question?
Certainly.
And it's going to be a quick one because thank to the previous questioners that laid out a good ground. I just want to first say that to me, the presence of consciousness that's separate from body, for example, could be when observing like identical twins. So identical twins, they're genetically identical exactly, but like if you observe their personality, is very different, oftentimes very different. And I had to, in my life, I had to closely observe two such examples. So this is one of a proof that I have that consciousness is something different from the body. Maybe it travels between. But my real question is, if Rinpoche La could explain more about how the consciousness can grow, and in this Bodhisattva practice, our precious human life, we use it to grow our consciousness, as I understand, and eventually it flourish into becoming Buddhahood. And but and you already mentioned that if we feel more compassion, if we feel more equanimity, it's one of the signs of growth. And but for some people, it may be difficult to assess. How am I more loving? How am I more? I mean, any other ways we can gauge, our progress, like whether we really like improving our consciousness, or maybe we're just too lazy.
All right, thank you. Asante ke jatis kara ta thanda sheba ani mi susu la re la ni gishigi sungu da la sta wonde la pe to khari sha to khora gi ta ngarang gi ngue jin dang ro di na bu che chu ro lo pe sha na yan dis chi shi sha dus kha jan na ni ke chik pa chi kyang yin ne chilu che dang da im dos.
다가나 템바라 토체
Gishla
동반
really
잡어요 세투도서 동반 잡어요 수번 잡어요 향돈 잡어요 세투 가지 넣어디 그래 간서 세랄 세투지 요래 이나 코니까 혼에게 내탄다 혼일 가쇼다 돼서 로카레 코르기 소야 다가라래 남 히바베디 카카레
Gishla really liked your example for the twins on the presence of consciousness, that one, because he also like how twins look alike and everything, but the way they act are completely different, which clearly shows like the consciousness is like individual. And koi karisungsla na dilas ngaranzo di ta tanda khare sheba dil ya per gore che yo mare do sungsas di ya pe la da this monster ta ngarang ngni khandi do china da chaw khari china ya pe gre lan chi semba sangbo che la do da den do sungya sungsas 아니 sempa sangpo chaya re ngarang mi changma la chikpa zingya re dende ro chin ta rangshingi ya pel ni ta ya yakpo do cha ta ya di chawara ta kangda mangda di shepa di la ani ya pel gi du ni susu ta kwal du ro ji yora da cheshi do kwal le
카왈레도 세야
dende ro ta khande do le susu gi nyamnen do ji yora da di la khande do ji china dende re yana ngarang su chi da chen da shepa chole ya che chego mara khande re la sha da nyamnen do ji chego ra semba sangbo che thap shi do song nonde shepa chole do ya yore yo mare do ya dende ro shi ko chu se
제가 안저 단다 자가기 숑나로라 시르니문라 때야타 가테 파랑가테 파라상가테 보디 소하르톤 티 가르송거르세나 히바야 로 장당거림바 로 장당거림바 켄자다 마소는 디닌 디칼로 보디 소하 세운디 잠만 디디 조조 도지기 찔러서 탐지 쳔바 남첸슬러서 몰호바세도 로종 제무공에 탈신상에 오 대상상 레데요 같은데 양안서 장야디 요레스 당안서 수소 그 값을 수소 공편 로고인데 따야디 야회데 가르되고 있으나 야회 따사데 가르잖아 수소 지 컨트롤이나 랑초초 마인 줘다와 니마 컨트롤 랑초초이나 다 컨트롤 랑초초 마인에 किसी कंट्रोल ना बाइना कंट्रोल के गेवां दंडो चेने लामसा ची खाचो दे देवांडा लापा चा देवांडा माइबा yang control दोने चेने control ले ना छु जखि जथुगी मतवा छा गुंदुना ana suso ke lo di jang gores ya shong gores senji yenda wati leba ina suso ke pinja phama tende tsa ma yimba chi senji rewa menjo ke senji dungye thong dinge chi dungye na dinge senji chu thong sona o tilo shatsan da ji le na o ko dungye de ko mara roba chi che gu gu doa samya ke dende ke ne che le ro chena ne lo ya kompen ro di gores.
Okay. All right. Regarding the consciousness, growth in the consciousness, Gishi was mentioning like there are certain levels in the Tibetan scripts where Theata, right? Kandire?
Nga yore
Like 5 levels which he believes, and then coming to the progress one, whether like how we can see our progresses in practicing consciousness, and then that one he said we can check it by reflecting like on ourselves. For example, if you are very short-tempered one, you can do it like today, like with your own practice and everything, with your daily practices, and then each day when you go, while you reflect on your anger, sometimes you'll be less aggressive, right? You won't fight back, and then that's showing your growth. You are in progress of doing that. And then also, if you could start being able to like sympathize on others and then willing to help others, despite that other is not related to you at all, even if it's a stranger who is having some trouble, if you are willing to help them, that is also another like progress which is showing you. So as long as we keep practicing, there is a progress. Like how our anger might last shorter, like each time when you get angry. It's like there are times when you are angry for like 5 minutes, and then with your practices, it might get shortened to like 1 minute, and then like that's also a progress.
Chidang hipa ya jin roya tang lo kompen roya teko de la chalang so nyamnyu yore singi ha ko dus ane tando minthi ne shamchu ke semda ninje zonda wata ane zogom se ya zonda wata jimba chuting zoba zondru samte hera se ya no to cholo chalang so ke tanda na yi minthi ne ti ti si jong de chada dawa ne lo chi de samane chunen joba che mugo suso kompen ro wa de suso ke ti se thwa jo ti da separes.
I know you all have like great practices and everything on the patience level, sympathy, empathy, and all these great ones. So I believe if we keep practicing them more and more, like in our daily lives, eventually, like by next year, we would be able to see like if we keep doing it, then we will be able to see a progress.
Ngarang ki nyamnyon ro segura chunchun ro ji hyupa ina matse nanglo la matse chajo seyan ra da kuma chapa seya zon ra wata o tetso te tsawa nini maje samsan ra wate suso ge shita tangbo suso ge ching re se tene ne suso ge tetso tiki te ta lo kong ni re su samsan ra wate jacha jandu us ana semje yen la pento hewaji che mato na ya nyo maje samsan ra wate nyo tenru zangji so la ina mbu troma chinche inche la nyo maje samsan ra wate suso lo kone le wata degi chane suso la ji tsama nyen ra wati kanyu jung thong de ra wati suso deji ra wati tang lo kone len jo imba ra wati chona yung dos.
And then with my own experience with the monastic rules and everything, I believe that even if we can't help others, at least like let's not harm them. And then Gishi also stated that like being a monk and then with the monastic rules and regulation, stealing things and all these are restricted in the rules and regulations, right? So he is like used to these rules, following these, and once these things are like being applied, he like how stealing is being considered like a sin and all these things. So which is why they never do all these actions, and then for example, for helping others, even if you couldn't help others, at least like do not harm them, even if it's an ant, like a small animal. As long as we don't harm them, sympathy will eventually start growing.
O tene no tochi ya.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. We're almost out of time, and I want to thank everybody for their patience in listening to this, being part of this conversation, and so on. And like I said, this is a conversation that will continue. I'd like to end with asking Geshe La if he would comment on his observation of what he thinks what his view of what this conversation, what this discussion has been.
니 겐슈게 크라기 삼츠도다 냠린도라 시샤니 니 다른 먼저 야마 게지 총수와 셰바다 된거 니 컨데로지 총수스
투지체. 담보디 간에 내게 손을 가르도서나 처랑솔라 제세고라 안아서 샘칸 거 로종 제기 망신다 왔다 도나 슈 첨부 여반다고지 대초고도 대 처랑솔로 도나 용단 대야지 오늘 전에게 지 가르서고라 수속 라왕 그 토네 내가지 힘비기 토네 팔렌ጆ로 오지마도 간소 보고 가서라 잡아 제겐조로 드린다고 많이 받지 지 내가 나한테 따단 두상사 대중성스
Gishi said what he felt was that everybody practicing the Buddha Dhamma, you all have really great interest, and then with your own freedom, and then by thinking like how everybody was motivated through certain stages of life, and that's how the practice came into life. So he really like respect that and appreciate it.
대다 냥도로 천남버서 저와 주여로와 저와 등원에 자네게 친이비기 저와 대단데 지난 것도 빼나 제왕아마다 치마 요래서 라운드 잠반에 군간님하고 랑상갈 같이버스는 히바세야디 요바데 라트 간데치기 임바스 아니 때는 심만한 로고 요바데 라트에서 간데스 제투그레세야라고 저와 때서도 원에 자네 친이비기 저와 든지기 집이 돈의 힌주제네 로종 제바이나 원에 자네 주된데 니에투그레스
And then along with that, the questions you guys are asking are really logical, like which is what a philosopher needed. And like Gishi was highlighting on the consciousness, and then Kunganimala also asked about how he would be able to prove like logically the presence of consciousness and all these things. So he really believed like you guys like have a really great questions, and then everything like it's a good one.
Alex disonso pena twin le de poco chetuni hipadelo loha yosares pena supa ina ya nam semba chipa chagamundo chetuni le pesha chene pama chane pegene subudi tsukhine shilo rapon rachanji khine le yana ya nam semba de pegen rapon rachanji khiwe mundu pede loha redus chi chopa yawa na chi chopa duwa chi ripa chawa na chi ripa chowa tne yungu se to pension to so de pension pe mesini jibo khion taba ina hinju gran yinda waji imba tade tagandu gabodus tujise.
And then how Alex was able to give an example on the presence of consciousness, and then stating that the consciousness are individual by stating like how an identical twins, like being identical, the way they act, like their personalities are being completely different. So by looking at the way you guys are showing your interest and all these logical theories and like the way you guys apply everything, this is really great, the session.
Tende indi zamana ta ngeki tenene chena ngaranso dongda uchi karikhiya yosena sanji chongdende ke dani dag ngui dani dag drai yin sena song yorwa te indi zamana ta ngone chane ngaranso ke mechendela sano tamba ina tagaran re de res phama ta pinche ta trobo tromo ko sosolo ropati ti che yor mato chike thatu na soso mechende chibol sano tamba ina yama kawado na mando na sosolo thu dendo was ama titi de so de den nangshi ke ngaranso soso ke thatu ke dechi drugi inga ta neka ke dechi drugi inga ta teso yama khar che na ma che na so so个 same 了 to 的吧的 same 这个往个另外个下决了 to 的吧的俺说拉出个都是的。
Those like if you could translate it, Dangi Dagi Gun, right?
You are your own enemy and you're your own saviors. So despite of whatever help you might get from your friends or your family, but eventually at the end of the day, everything its own individual, like for your own happiness, for your own success, for your own sorrow, sadness, it all boils down on the individual, because everything else, the others, they can't do anything. So basically, it's say like you are your own enemy, you are your own saviors.
就是我第几学专注全部弄了嘞，假设全部学完那个搞得上了些呢，东岩东的三月讲东岩你了我们把就，台湾对着德目别让个台湾扎当中么现在上月了，但对上么那些俺说接触那了干啥干了大的当，没看些个东岩三个月嘞。Dechi dugu sigi yarate tsama dunga le jade ya tende ne so yungundu ma gerere ni re tsu cha ya pa ina suso ge dechi dugu kecha rete suso ge cheta ma hi wange suso mase koran dunga la de ya tende da na thame ta cho tel ran hi jab de ya tende yungundu was ta tende indu tsama ne ta tu na thusa de suso ran la thugundu yen de wala ta sangje da shangchu semba da phama da se ya to so de sone drore de has.
Mm-hmm. But then sometimes, despite of all the good intentions, you're misguided, and then misguided persons can bring disasters and a lot of distractions and so on. So it is a individual's own abilities, own motivations, own actions that eventually bring the results, either positive or negative.
근데 인데 잠반에 아는 나랑서 수속의 히바다 수속의 주다 아니 다 타투나 마투나 수속의 단조고 물리름 버치 생에데 짜 첨보데 다 가와 베혀 땅나 마타다 가르제다 마제 뜻간을 투누도스 근데 임바 손자 체남바 쪽에 근데 직 저니 제야다 나랑서 튜몽고 토니 근데 고가 냠도치 고가라데테 난 데페 메시 데지 초고도스 투지체.
I see this kind of discourse on human life, happiness. It's a very privilege and honor for me, and I derive so much joy from this because, after all, our human life is so precious, and whatever we are doing is something very meaningful and worthwhile. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Tukshe. Thank you, Geshe La, Yangshin La, and Dorje La for translating, and everybody else for being part of this. And as you can see, this is a very precious time that we have with a great master like Geshe Lharampa. This is very special. And so it's like having your own personal guru. So we'll be able to continue this conversation for many, many weeks, many months, and maybe a year. Who knows? But this will stay with us for a very long time. So we're doing this on the framework of the 37 practices of the Bodhisattva. So nothing could be better than this. So with that, I'll recite a dedication prayer. By the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate word of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Drikung Ratna Shri and all the other great masters of all the great lineages, who are omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, masters of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. Om. Ah. Om. Om. Ah Hung. Om. Ah Hung. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones for the benefit of all sentient beings. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you. Thank you all.
everyone, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Koche, for being with us.
Thank you.
All right.